Turn to page 27, chapter 30. We cover the first two paragraphs of chapter 30 on the Diamond Sutra. I would like to repeat again section 30, the first paragraph, page 27. Subbuddhi of a virtuous man or woman reduced to dust all the worlds in the universe. Would these particles of dust be many? And Subbuddhi said, many, well-honored one. Why? Because if they really existed, the Buddha would not say they were particles of dust. And why? Because when the Buddha speaks of particles of dust, they are not, but are expediently called the particles of dust. It sounds paradoxical, but it isn't. All things, big or small, are formed because of causality. Many causes put together to make it happen. It itself does not have any real nature. That's the reason why, remember when we chant the Heart Sutra, it says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The same is true with perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. Everything exists on causality, and causality is a very important concept in explanations of everything in the universe. So the Buddha now is talking about if every man and woman thinking about if we visualize to reduce all our body to dust, would there be many dust? So the Buddha was trying to point out the smallest thing, the smallest particle. It would be dust. In those days, they called it dust, but now we call it atoms, protons, electrons, small particles. Very small as atoms, it's formed because of causality. Many causes put together to make it arise. And there's many reasons, many causes that happen to make it maintain its status quo, and then make it change its status quo, and then make it disintegrating. The next page, well-honored one, when Tathagata speaks of the world, they are not, but expediently called the world. Why? Because if they really exist, they are just agglomerations. The Tathagata speaks of agglomeration, which are not agglomeration, but are just expediently called agglomeration. The Buddha is talking from atom to the multiplicity of atoms, for the multitude of atoms. Now he changed it to the largest item. From a small item with dust and particle to the largest item would be the world, the universe. The world, the universe is the same. When the people of Stravasti offer a ball of rice to the Buddha, the Buddha asked the question, am I eating a ball of rice or grains of rice? A ball of rice is like a universe. The grain of rice is what makes up of the universe. Which is real, which is more real, or both are unreal. I remember there was a poem by a British poet. It's called William Blake. And he says, to see the world in a grain of sand, and to see a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in your hand and eternity in an hour. Have you heard that poem before? To see the world in grains of sand. What is this world made up of? You have a handful of sand in your hands. Do you see the grains of sand? The world is there. So to see the world in a grain of sand, in a collection of sand, and heaven in a wildflower. And many people say heaven is happiness, and heaven is a lot of flowers in heaven, but you can see heaven right away in a wildflower. Everything is in a sleight of hands. It's all delusions. They exist, but they exist impermanently. They exist on causality, they exist in emptiness, they don't have existence. They don't have permanent existence. That's why it says, in emptiness, there is no form. It may sound paradoxical to you because we don't have the wisdom to perceive it. What the Buddha had enlightened, had realized, is not easy to grasp. It is the most difficult to comprehend. That's why there is, in emptiness, there is no form, no perception. There's no form, no perception, no conception, no volitions, no consciousness. There's no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind. There is no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or object of mind. There's nothing to be obtained. But there is, right now, existing now. I have my eyes, my nose, my ear, my tongue. And how come you say none of them? You really have to come to realization to understand this. It takes time. So, whole infinity in the palm of your hand. Whole infinity. How can you hold infinity in the palm of your hand? An eternity in an hour. William Blake. He must have been enlightened somehow to write a poem like that. There are people who are enlightened. And enlightenment is in different stages, in different degrees. So, if you think that, this world is one agglomeration, that this whole world, someone must have created this world. This world is created by God. It's a creator who created the world. Then you fall into the problem of logic. What is an agglomeration? One unity. It means if you fall into the illogical concept of it must be one creation, that means it can be created out of something, and that will permanently exist. That will be in eternity. How can anything be in eternity? How can anything exist permanently? How can anything exist without causes? Nothing can exist without causes. So its creation is based on causality, not based on having its real nature. What do I mean when we say having its real nature? It can be created out of its own. If the Creator creates the world, who created the Creator? The Creator create Himself? If the Creator creates Himself, it means it's self-creation. Is there anything such as self-creation in this world? It's created out of the blue. It's created with no causes. Imagine our body. Our body is body and mind, flesh and blood, body and mind, perception, volition, and consciousness. So we have two parts. One is the material, the body, and the other is the mind, which is the spiritual. None of these is created out of the blue, out of the air. It's created because of many causes. It's created because of the parents coming together, because of that embryo that happens in there. It's created, as a matter of fact, out of reasons not of this life, dating back to previous lives. And previous life have many lives. There's a multiplicity of causes that make you come to pass, sitting in here today, that make you be in this world. Many, many causes, multiplicity of causes. And beginners may ask the question, how does that help me? Oh yeah, it's nice philosophy. How does it help in my daily life? If I know causality, how does it help in my daily life? It helps you a lot. It helps you to build, to nurture, to cultivate good causes, not to cultivate bad causes. Because why? What is the nature of cause? It's either bad, good, or neutral. If you cultivate only bad cause, bad effect will come out. Simply speaking, if you kill, you subject yourself to be sentenced to severe punishment. If you ignore your education, you subject yourself to be ignorant. If you're cruel, you subject yourself to die of atrocities. If you subject yourself to alcoholism, you subject yourself to be in confusion in most of the time, mentally. So all these have cause and effect. On the opposite, if you subject yourself to good cause, good effect will come out. So how does that help me? Oh, it helps you tremendously. You only build good causes in the first place. Why do we have to go through the suffering that we're suffering now? We build up our own causes. We cultivate, we make those sufferings happen to us. We are the creator of this suffering, not of material, of this suffering. So, if you're talking about the world as an agglomeration that is in eternity, is an agglomeration that is created by a God, that is, it's not empty, it has its real nature, then we're talking illogically. So if you think everything has a real nature of its own, the Buddha said, no, that's not true. There's no unity, no diversity, no coming and no going, no arising, no disintegrating, no permanence, no impermanence. What's the meaning of all these? Just pick up one. What is unity and diversity? Let's talk about cause and effect, for example. Is cause and effect different? Is cause and effect the same? If cause and effect is the same, we call it one unity. Is cause and effect the same? If cause and effect is the same, then you don't need conditions to make the effect come true. Because cause is effect, effect is cause. That's not true. Because from cause and effect, there are other conditions to make the effect comes true. So cause and effect is not one unity. It's not one. For that conceptual thinking, because one leads to the other. And then you say, if they're not one, they must be separate. Are they separate? Are they distinctly separate from one another? No, it's not. Why? Because one is related to the other. The cause is always related to the effect. So it's not one unity, it's not one diversity. It's not coming, it's not going. It's not arising, it's not disintegrating. Well, you have to catch on to that. You really have to think to know that. You can't just accept the superficial meaning of words. Words are have limitations. You go into the mind, the inside mind. That's what the Buddha told us. Don't look at the superficial meaning, look at the meaning behind it. Do not have blind faith to say, I believe in the Buddha and I'm okay. No, you're not okay just by blind belief, by ignorance. You're not okay. You really have to go to enlighten your mind. Go deeper and deeper into it. Think about it. And some people say, yeah, we're living in this world, we have to be practical. If somebody treats me wrong, then I should revenge. Somebody use violence against me, I'll use violence against him. Teach him a lesson. Is that right? Section 31. Subhuti, what do you think if someone says the the Buddha speaks of the view of an ego, a personality, a being in the life, Supati, does that person understand what I mean? Remember, in all previous chapters, the Buddha said, get rid of the ego. No ego, no personality, no being and no life. That's a view on it. The view of no ego, no personality, no being and no life. And if anything, say that if anybody speaks of that as a view, Supati, does that person understand what I mean? That person does not understand what the Buddha means. The view is not a view, that is why it is called a view. Because that view is causality. That view has no real nature. That view is just a view. And that when that view is accomplished, no more view. When the ship takes you to Victoria, get rid of that view. Get rid of that concept. That conceptualization takes you from Nanaimo to Victoria. Once you get onto Victoria, you got to let go of your view. Not to mention your egoistic view that you have to let go earlier. Even the view of letting go of your egoistic view should be let go. Let go of the ship, get on shore. If you hang on to the ship to Victoria, you will never get to Victoria. You just stay in your ship forever. Let go of that. So slowly you let go, bit by bit, let go. Not to say let go of your miserable past or your happy memories. Both have to be let go. Because those happy memories will not come back again. And I got laymen who always come to me and they say, I'm not happy, especially the senior people. In the 60s, 70s, I said, why are you not happy? Because I have a family before, when all my kids are young, they're teenagers, they're young kids, I have a family to enjoy. They always listen to what I told them. We went on holidays, we have nice Christmas, at Easter we eat our turkeys and we sing our songs, and I have all these good memories. All my children are with me. Now they're all gone. They all have different families. They don't miss me. I miss them. And what happened to me? I don't feel happy about this. Because you hang on to the past, good memories. Those exist only impermanently. They don't stay all the time. Why do you have to stick onto the past? That's a suffering. Why do we have to subject to that suffering? Because that's the karma we brought with us here. That's why the Buddha said, let go. Let go of your happiness, your nostalgic happiness. Let go of your miserable past. Kate, prakate, prasamkate, bodhiswaha. Let go, further let go. Let go until there's nothing. Even that nothingness, that emptiness has to be let go. Bodhi, if you have completely let go of everything, you see the light. Because there's no hindrances, no more obstacles in mind. If there's no obstacles in mind, there's no fear, no anxiety, no depression, no mental afflictions. That's what the Heart Sutra says. It says here, the Bodhisattvas practicing Prajnaparamita have no obstacles in mind. Having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from delusions, ultimately realizing nirvana. All Buddhas of the past, present and future, abiding in Prajnaparamita, attain Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi. It's easy to say so, but it's difficult to practice. Because every time when the sinners think about all these nostalgic happiness, he's unhappy. But now he's happier than before because he put all this into the chanting. He put all this into the mindfulness of the Buddhist teaching. Because the past, no matter how happy it is, how miserable they are, they have to be let go because it belongs to the past. The time of the past will not come to the present. The present does not contain the time of the past. Sure, you can flash back to the past when you're attached. And people say, should I just forget about the past? What about my past experiences? If I learned from my past experiences that I should do this and I shouldn't do that. That's different. That's your learning, that's your improvement, that's your enlightenment. But you don't attach to past. So, it says, if you have a view, you let go of that view, personality, let go of being and life. The fourfold of letting go. And it says next in the next paragraph, no well-honored one, the person does not understand if he still have a view of Buddhism, of the Buddhist teaching of letting go, the ego, personality, being and life, he still have a view, he still have Buddhism in his mind. He still have that ship that has brought him to Victoria. He hasn't let go of the ship. He hasn't set his foot on shore. So that person does not understand. Why? Because when the Tathagata speaks of the view of an ego, personality, of being in a life, it is not really, but it's only experientially called view of an ego, personality, being in a life. Next paragraph. Subhuti, he who develops the supreme enlightenment mind should thus know, see, believe, and comprehend all things. He should not set up the perception of things, Dhamma, lasana, in his mind. In emptiness, of course, there's no form, nor perception, nor volition, nor consciousness. Even that has to let go. Next page. Subhuti, the so-called form of beings, the Tathagata says is not, but it's just called the form of things. That's section 31. Why, if we understand causality, what does that lead us to understand further? If we understand everything, it arises and disintegrate, productions and annihilation, everything coming and going, all dependent causes, what lead us to understand further? That lead us to understand more of what? That lead us to understand, obviously, there's no permanence. The world is impermanent. Everything is fleeting. Every minute of the past does not come to the present. It's fleeting and fleeting and fleeting. It never stays still. On the other hand, it doesn't stay still, but it is still. Because only the phenomena change. It changes, but it doesn't change. The phenomena change, but the nomina doesn't change. There's a sea of water. The sea is still, is equanimity, is peaceful. When the wind blows onto it, the wind of ignorance blows onto it, waves come out. This wind is elusive. Where does this wind come from? Ignorance comes from. Where does this wind come from? Well, I think you better contemplate on it. Where does wind comes from? Where does this ignorance come from? So, letting go and causality leads us to think about impermanence. And impermanence leads us to think about suffering. If everything is impermanent, how can you not be in suffering? Our life is impermanent, death is coming up, nothing remains and maintains it as it is. So suffering is an accepted fact in life. It's not being negative, it's factual. It's a fact that there's suffering. The earth is fragile and unsafe. So causality tells us that the world is impermanent, the earth is fragile and unsafe. What does it further tell us? It tells us none exists with a reality. It's empty. And what it further tells us is there's no self. And this self means, if we put it simply, is control. There is no me, there's no ego, there's no me. That ego is illusion, is delusory. If the definition of an ego is the controller of you, if people like to define ego as that controller in you, that's your ego. But that controller in you is not controlling. He's out of control because he cannot control your life and death. You have to subject to life and death. If you are sick, the controller cannot control you not to be sick. If you have to die, that controller has no say. You have to die. That controller is not the real you. You have to go beyond that controller to find that real you. So I've come to section 31. I have another section 32 to finish, and then I finished the Diamond Sutra. I've been talking on it for the whole year, and finally I come to the last section. So I'll wait for Lee to come back to celebrate the last section, because I've been talking for 1 year, and we spend many hours on it, just talking about the Diamond Sutra. It contains many, in appearance, to be paradoxical sentences, but they are not. Thinking in two terms, phenomena and noumena. Phenomena is the form, what appears. Noumena is formless. You cannot comprehend it. It has to be contacted, or you really have to comprehend through inner wisdom. Through the inner wisdom. You cannot even talk about it. You cannot see it, you cannot talk about it. What is it? You cannot see, you cannot talk, you cannot hear about it. What is it? I think we all contemplate on that. What is it?